These days, when we hear about Liberia, it's always about poverty, war, disease, and corruption. We are literally an astonishment for the nations to look upon. When you type Liberia in on just about any search bar, you'll see content that'll make you never consider visiting Mother Liberia. What if I told you that it wasn't always this way? Follow me on this journey as I take you through the most malicious, beautiful, and complex history known to man, the history of Mother Liberia. Liberia is a union made up of various tribes, 16 to be exact. These tribes migrated from different parts of Africa over many centuries. You have the Pele people, who originated from East Africa and migrated to Liberia because of war. The Bassa people, who are from the Baita Biafra region of West Africa. Then there's the Gio, Kru, Gribo, Mandingo, Mano, Gola, Kran, Mandi, Loma, Kisi, Va, Bele, Kwa, and Dead people. Most tribes of Liberia migrated sooner or later. The most indigenous tribes in Liberia are the Gola, Kisi, and Kru people. Prior to Western influence, the 16 tribes lived together in harmony. They had a very simple but successful barter and trade system with their neighboring countrymen. But that all changed in the mid-1800s. Contrary to popular belief, the early 90s was not Liberia's first war. In 1820, a U.S. Navy vessel began the search for a place of permanent settlement in what is now Liberia. By now, European invasions were very notorious around West Africa. Anybody that was dressed as one of them were treated with great hostility. The local leaders resisted American attempts to purchase land, but the Navy officer in charge, Lieutenant Robert Stockton, coerced a local ruler to sell a strip of land to the society. The society then moved to this new location, and other freed blacks from the United States joined them. The local tribes continually attacked the new colony to fight for their land, but they were clearly lacking in weaponry and technology. And in 1824, the settlers built fortifications for protection and eventually wore out the local forces. In that same year, the settlement was named Liberia, which literally means the land of the free, and its capital Monrovia, in honor of the President James Monroe, who had procured more U.S. government money for the project. In 1838, at least 20,000 free slaves settled in Liberia. In addition to that, there were thousands more Barbadians who settled in Liberia. According to many sources, the settlers from the U.S. attempted to retain the culture they had brought from the United States, and for the most part, did not integrate with the native societies. In 1847, the Liberians formally declared their independence from the ACS, creating the world's first black republic. The Americo-Liberians governed Liberia as a one-party state for 133 years. Their rulership heavily influenced Liberia by introducing English as a national language in a Western political and social structure. The economy at first found it difficult to gain entry into markets dominated by colonial powers, was eventually supported by American foreign investment. In the 1920s, the Firestone Tire Company took over 4% of the territories for the world's largest rubber plantation, which provided a model for other plantation developments and provided the Americo-Liberians with significant cash resources. In the post-World War II period, Liberia had the most prosperous years under President William V.S. Tubman, from 1944 to his death in 1971. I myself am opposed with a lot of the decisions Tubman made during his stay in office. The key one being the decision to allow the U.S. the total rights to our foreign policy for payouts. In all honesty, I believe that he did a lot more good than he did bad. Through foreign investment, he built much of Liberia's roads and railways and refurbished Monrovia's ports, creating the infrastructure for rubber and iron ore export. We also had cement companies, tobacco factories, and many other manufacturing companies. At the time of his death, Liberia had the largest mercantile fleet in the world. During his term, he built many representative buildings, like the Capitol Building, the Monrovia City Hall, and the National Cultural Center. He also constructed Monrovia's famous Ducor International Hotel, West Africa's first five-star hotel. During Tubman's tenure, Liberia experienced a period of prosperity. His administration also invested in health and education. The country adopted a literacy program following an approach known as Each One Teach One. Perhaps most importantly, William Tubman attempted to unite Liberia's population. Tubman's government made equal rights mandatory by granting constitutional rights to the indigenous people. President Tolbert was a very outspoken and borderline arrogant man, to say the least. He didn't have the peacekeeping and calming leadership ability as President Tubman, which made him very controversial among the citizens. But nevertheless, the economic seed that Tubman planted during his stay continued to grow when Tubman came into office. In the 70s was another prosperous decade for Liberia, in which we signed many lucrative international deals to boost the country's already thriving economy. As we know with everything in life, there's always two sides to every story. To the upper-class Americo-Liberians and a few indigenous people and Caribbean settlers, life was amazing and the future looked bright. But a lot of the population were getting the shorter end of the stick. The capital city and its surrounding areas were nearly indistinguishable from the United States, but the rest of the country, for the most part, was left undeveloped. This, plus a lack of economic opportunity, caused an uproar among the native population. In comes Samuel Doe. Samuel Doe, who was a former militant and one of the best shooters in his class, grew a following amongst the native Liberian population as the people's champion. He had the will to give the power back to the people and to stop the 133-year rule of the Americo-Liberians. This resonated with the lower class population. He grew and waited for his opportunity, and in 1980, Samuel Doe and his militant entourage assassinated President Tolbert, making Samuel Doe the official president of Liberia. When Samuel Doe became president, that was the beginning of the end of Liberia. First, because President Doe was an army man and did not know how to run a country as well as his predecessors. Then later, because of the civil wars that was funded and promoted by the United States government. I'm not going too deep into the Liberian civil wars on this video. There is enough content out there already perpetuating our lowest moment. The summary is that the CIA released Charles Taylor from a Boston prison and sent him on a specific mission. He, President Doe, and eventually Prince Johnson had a scramble for resources and control. This left Liberia in a political cycle of despair for decades. Even after the wars, now that there is peace in the country, we are still dealing with corruption and incompetence. But one thing I know about Liberians, we are strong and resilient. There is more to us than war and poverty. There's more and more of us in the diaspora that are coming back to build and do business every day. It's only a matter of time before we get a good leader to make the proper political changes in policy. Until then, we will keep striving for better. Liberia is on the rise. Let me know what you think about the history, current condition, and future of Liberia in the comments below. Subscribe and press the notification bell for consistent news and entertainment about the diaspora. And don't be stingy with the like button. It's free. Forever one love, family.